welcome to another episode of That's Absurd, Please Elaborate. It's in the science category of podcasts, not comedy, which I think is a fair assessment. But
that's our secondary category.
That's the one that we tell ourselves we'll be in someday. But the show, I think it's fair to say it is a show at least.
Yeah, right. Nailed that one.
Yes, accurate categorization there. We take questions from you, the listeners, each other, sometimes special guests, and we do our best to research and find the real answer, or as close to the real answer as we can, for whatever silly, ridiculous, outlandish thing you come up with. I am Julian, and I am here hosting today.
Along with me, I'm Trace, the other person hosting this. We'll get this eventually. I don't know if we're going to run out of bits here.
Well, we're a year plus in, and frankly, I think we've got this all figured out.
We're great.
I see no need to change the show or myself.
I feel most people feel that way.
Yeah, no, yeah. I'm great. It's everybody else that's terrible. Is the conclusion Skinner I've landed on.
No, it's the children who are wrong.
This would be a great moment to have a therapy advertiser, but we don't.
Yeah.
Anyway, what we do have...
If you want to advertise on our show, please tell us.
Yeah, if you want to tell me I need therapy, but do so in a way where you offer me money in order to then go and get therapy.
Yeah.
I would be agreeable to that. Anyway, what we do have, though, are questions from listeners this week. We have two questions. Both of them were actually recorded and sent in by the listeners. So up first is my question from Sabrina.
Hi, Trace. Hey, Julian. Sabrina here from Northern California. Question for you. How much does regard weigh? I read a lot, and there's this common trope in books where the narrator says things like, his head was pulled around by the weight of her regard. And I was thinking about how in real life, sometimes we can feel when people are looking at us. We get a prickly feeling on the back of our neck, or we get the sudden urge to lift our heads from our work and look around only to see someone quickly looking away. Is that just our spidey senses tingling? Or is there some actual force acting upon us when we become the focus of someone's attention? Does regard have weight? I know that's absurd, but could you please elaborate? Thanks, guys.
Oh,
She
Sabrina.
the show name even.
Sabrina, this is a great question.
I was going to commend her for her recording voiceover performance. When she was like, I know we get tingly when people look at us. I'm like, I feel like this is kind of ASMR-esque. I feel a little tingly with the quality of that recording.
So the question is, how much does regard weigh? It's so literary. It's way like more highbrow than our show is.
No, Sabrina's an outlier for sure.
I'm bringing up the quality here.
Don't know how she found us two idiots, but here we are, dragging down the overall average the intelligence.
Luckily, life grades on a curve.
Okay. I do know the sensation that she's describing, though, right? I feel like we've all felt that sense of eyes upon us and getting our attention diverted to that, and we see somebody staring at us, right? Yeah. I feel that way. Do you also get like the tingly on the back of your neck thing?
I don't think it's a tingly on the back of my neck, but I definitely do feel like I'm being watched sometimes, and I look around and I'm like, what's that? And, it's usually the cat. But you do feel it. I don't know if I would describe it as a tingly neck feeling, but I don't know how I would describe it. Tingly brain feeling?
Tingly brain. Or maybe like heat. You ever feel the sensation of like heat on whatever? I always feel it on my neck. That's me.
That's heat? Like your neck gets hot?
Yeah. Well, Superman
got hot neck?
With his laser vision is staring at me.
Oh.
That's my experience. But I do think it is universal. Like we've all, to some degree or other, had the sensation that somebody's watching us, turned and saw that we were correct, right? And it's funny that Sabrina frames it in this literary way of, is there a weight to it? Because I think what most people would instead think of it as, is there some sort of extrasensory perception going on, right? Is there some like telepathic link or some vibration that we're attuned to? That's normally, I think, how people would characterize it. Do you think that's fair?
How Los Angeles of you.
It is.
You like totally picking up their vibes?
We operate on vibes out here, which I have to sidebar, as like a science geek person, kind of makes me insane because I know what they're getting at is wrong, but then I also want to be like, I don't know, if you believe in string theory, we're all
true.
just vibes. And then I make myself crazy.
The whole universe is just vibes. That's basically the string theory. When somebody's like, can you explain string theory? And I'm just like, vibes, man.
Vibes, man.
It's just vibes.
Just some 10-dimensional vibes, man.
10-Dimensional Vibes is a great band name.
Oh my gosh, it is!
Love it! Hey everybody, welcome to 10-Dimensional Vibes.
10-Dimensional Vibes.
We're gonna blow your mind tonight.
That would be so good.
And then they just pull out their keytar, or the little teeny key piano.
I thought it would be like a triangle.
Oh, like a hurdy-gurdy? Oh, okay. I saw you twisting, and I'm like, what? It's a triangle.
It's an organ grinder. No, that wouldn't fit.
It's all experimental music. It's literally a meat grinder, and they're like, "This is our percussion section."
So living here in LA, I also think it's funny. I've seen people say, "Do you ever just get somebody and your vibes and their vibes just clash so much?" And somebody else go, "You're just describing not liking somebody. That's it. Like it's not."
What could that mean? They're a jerk and you're a jerk differently.
You've come up with a more circuitous way of just being like, "I didn't like this person when I met them."
Yeah.
But anyway, that's me. When people use the word vibes. Okay.
Vibes.
But back to this possible ESP. Are there any sort of vibes, right, that you pick up on that draws your attention? Well, in 1898, there was actually an English psychologist named Edward B. Titchener.
What?
I know.
Who?
Edward B. Titchener, who studied if there is some sort of, as he dubbed it, psychic staring effect. And no, he didn't find anything conclusive.
Man, with a name like that, I would have thought that he would have found something.
Edward Titchener.
The Titchener effect.
Which I've got to say I'm kind of relieved because I feel like whenever I look up old-timey psych experiments, I'm always like, what is this methodology? What are these conclusions? It's bonkers. The studies that did support the psychic staring effect do have methodological issues where it's like the person conducting the study is also the person like staring at the subject, and so they might be sending some sort of cues, or
it's just a creepy person sitting in a room with other people being like,
yeah, right.
Did they look at me?
I would feel like I'm being stared at. Yeah. So there's no evidence that supports some sort of other far out, spooky vibes that we're channeling with each other. There's no brain linkage happening as far as we know, but there are plenty of great explanations for why we still get the sense that people are looking at us and then we turn and sure enough, they actually are. One of them is just how freaking huge our peripheral vision field of view is.
Yeah.
I kind of maybe tip my hand a little bit, but if you had to put a number on it, how many degrees do you think your field of view is? Staring straight ahead, not moving your eyes.
I'm staring at your face.
Okay.
And I'm thinking about the things that I can see off to the side of me. Mm-hmm. And I can see pretty far, probably, I don't know, almost 180.
Yeah.
150?
Yeah, you put your hands out, right? And you still...
You can see. If you're driving, do not do this. But
please keep your hands on the wheel.
And put your arms out to the side. That's what I'm doing. Make sure you can see them and then move them slowly backwards until you can't. That's a pretty big semicircle. Right. And if I move them, if I wiggle my fingers, I can sense that there's motion there. But I don't know what it is. It's just like a blob of motion. But that's probably 180.
So it can be as much as 210 degree field of view.
Wow.
Yeah, for humans.
That's cool.
It's so wide.
That's way more than you'd think.
It is. And like you mentioned, at the peripheral, we are also more sensitive to movement, right? So I don't think people realize just how much they're picking up on things in their environment and just not actively turning their attention to it, but they still can perceive it, right?
Yeah.
So even if somebody at a 210 degree FOV, that means that somebody can be slightly behind you, even if you're staring straight ahead, and you can still pick up on their presence.
Yeah.
That is one part of it. There's also studies about how attuned we are at specifically having structures in our brains dedicated to knowing where things are looking. Yeah. So it's been proposed that we have a gaze detection system, literally like neurons that are just attuned to firing when a gaze is right on you, and they don't fire if somebody is staring just a few degrees away.
Really? Like they're that sensitive?
Yeah.
So if I'm looking over your shoulder, but I'm kind of off the side of you somewhere, your brain allegedly, if this is true, would be able to tell the difference.
Yes. Or if you were facing me, let's say, and looking right at me, that means these certain neurons are firing. Looking over my shoulder at somebody you're waving at behind me, in theory, I should be able to know the difference, but I'm going to wave back anyway because I feel like an idiot every time I do.
I do it all the time. Yeah. And then I'm just like, oh, they were waving at their their partner behind me or like their dad.
If that happens to you, get mad at apparently the wrong set of neurons that are firing. This, I don't think it's been conclusively shown in humans, but there was a study on macaque monkeys that did definitively show that they have certain parts of their brain light up when they're being stared at. So it's entirely possible we have it too. I don't see why not.
That's cool.
There have also been studies, a 2008 study called Psychophysics of Perceiving Eye Gaze and Head Direction with Peripheral Vision. That's right, another classic band name.
Psychophysics, the best band name we ever came up with.
10-dimensional vibes. I don't know, 10-dimensional vibes is freaking pretty good.
On the list of band names we've come up with on this podcast, those might be two of
Top
the best.
Two. I would see that world tour.
Yeah, if they were playing together. Wow.
Super band. It is actually the same members with different instruments.
Jack White also.
Yeah, and Jack White.
He's like in every band.
And the Rack on Tours? White's, oh my, guys everywhere.
Yeah, he's in everything. Don't forget the dead weather.
So, this 2008 study did find, they had, observers like staring at a person and then somebody else trying to gauge whether or not they were being stared at. And they were judging this person who was the subject would either say where they thought the person's head was pointing or where their eyes were pointing. And they would move the starer like farther and farther into their peripheral vision or move them around and still try and gauge how accurate the person being possibly stared at was. And it turns out that we're really good at judging the direction somebody's head is pointing, even out to 90 degrees on the side of your peripheral vision. So really, really great with head direction.
That's far.
It is. It's basically straight to the side of you, right?
Yeah.
And we're still pretty accurate. We're not as good with judging where eye gaze is, according to this study. That they had to be basically just 4 degrees out from your dead on line of sight. 4 degrees eccentricity, the study said. So
that's not very much.
No, it's not
that's
a
like
lot.
right in front of you, basically.
Yeah. But again, head direction really, really accurate. And so I found other research suggesting that when you sense like somebody staring at you, say their head is pointed more or less in your direction, if you turn around and actually look at them, because humans are so social and we reciprocate each other's gazes so much, that person might then turn their eyes to you and then you go, aha, they were staring at me. So it's kind of an issue. There's a lot of confirmation bias issues when it comes to this detection of somebody staring at you, right? Because if you maybe have that feeling, you turn around and nothing's there, you're probably going to forget it. But if you do turn around and see somebody looking at you, you're going to remember it and be like, whoa, I felt that person staring at me.
Yeah, so you're talking, that is a really good example of confirmation bias. You're like, if you check 10 times and you forget 9 of them, but the one time it was your crush who was looking at you. Yeah. They must have been looking at you.
She's definitely, or he, I don't know.
Yeah, they're looking at you.
Whoever they may be. I just want somebody to look at me, Trace.
I'm looking at you.
You are looking at me.
Just via a screen, though. Does it still work?
Yeah, no, I don't think the interface, it's not Bird Box rules where the stare through the screen. So, if anybody remembers that movie that was really popular for
no idea what you're talking
Bird
about.
Box, there's a part where they're on the security. You know the things that if you look at, they apparently drive you mad, but if you're already mentally ill, they make you murderous, which has terrible implications for mentally ill people. It's kind of a questionable plot
Sounds
point.
awful.
It is
Yeah.
awful. Anyway.
That sounds really bad.
Yeah, and Sandra Bullock, and people stared at these
Oh,
things.
is that the
right?
one where she was blindfolded? I never watched it because I was like, oh, I'm fine. I like Sandy, but
Yeah, and then there's a point when they look through a security camera, and one of the guys is like, "I'm gonna look at this thing through the screen," and then he still gets driven mad. So anyway, all that is to say,
that doesn't make sense. But okay,
your gaze through the screen does not apparently trigger this my psychophysics.
Psychophysics.
Another interesting I found when looking through all this, though, to tack on to how much humans rely on visual cues from each other, is the fact that our eyes are really different from almost every other animal.
How so? I always thought they were the same. I mean, not like goats or sideways pupils and stuff, not like that. I just mean like they operate very similarly, I always thought.
The big difference in terms of just when you look at a human's eyes from the outside as opposed to pretty much every other animal is how much our sclera, the whites of our eyes, are visible.
I always wondered that.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, Trace, I found some research into it.
Oh.
And
well, I'm so glad I asked.
I am too. And the research suggests that it's because we as humans need to be able to communicate so much for our survival, and exchanging glances or being able to follow the gaze of another person, we can get a lot of meaning from this. And so our eyes have slowly changed. So it's more obvious for us to know where a person's looking. So because of this, we're really good at knowing if we're being looked at, because we can gauge pretty well, because of the contrast of a person's eyes between, their iris and pupil and their sclera, we can gauge really accurately where people are looking as a result. It's also apparently something that's very innate. I found a 2002 study, actually 2 of them, where they looked at newborns, like 2 to 5 days old or 4-month-olds, and they noticed that they have a tendency to give a lot more attention to a face that is staring at it as opposed to one that's looking away from it. So even from a really early age, we're like seeking out eye contact and making it with each other. And again, that goes to how important communication was for our survival as a species.
Yeah. That's really neat.
Yeah.
That's really, because you think about, where your dog is looking, but your dog also really overly signals where they're looking, either by moving their whole head, or if they're like giving emotion. Sometimes there's you can see like dog emotions, especially in internet memes and things where they like have their eyebrows involved. They're really signaling that they're looking in a direction versus, a human could sit completely still and you could still check the direction that they're looking, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think about that too. My dog has we call them like boba eyes, because they just look like little tapioca balls, because she's a Chihuahua and they're like popping out of her head. But I've always thought, you can't see the whites of this dog's eyes at all. A lot of animals where you still can see the sclera is darker. Ours is that bright white. And the thinking for why other animals have more basically hidden eyes is it's harder for, say, prey to know when a predator is actually looking at them, because they often stare when they're about to pounce, right?
Yeah, I definitely do.
You're staring at me right now. Now it's morphed. Now the feelings have changed in this bird box situation that we find ourselves in. But I did think it was fascinating. One other consideration, though, is that survival aspect. Do we also feel this sensation that somebody's staring at us? Are we also so highly attuned to it because there was a time when we lived amongst animals that might want to eat us, or our ancestors did?
Right.
And having that sense that something is looking at you and wanting to turn and be alert and confirm that might have also been pretty important to our survival.
Yeah.
Makes sense why those macaques would have it, and why we would still probably retain that now, except now we don't have to worry about a tiger in the brush. Now it's more like, that guy at the coffee shop keeps looking at me. What does he want?
Yeah, what's going on with that guy?
Yeah, what's with
Stop looking at me, guy.
I feel the weight of his regard.
What's the feeling part?
So the sensation that actually makes you look is probably entirely in your head, and it's a result of all these basically highly attuned systems where you're picking up more in your environment and analyzing where things are looking and how humans are so visual and communicate with each other so much through our eyes. So there's all that, right? That's what actually makes you turn and look at something. So there's no actual force pulling you over or some sort of brain connection, anything like that, right?
Yeah.
So obviously, to be such a wet blanket, there's no weight because it's metaphorical, right? It's not anything physical. So you have to have a mass to have weight, first of all.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. Yes.
So there's no weight there. It's a metaphorical one. But I want to be even more of a wet blanket and suggest a different word should be used.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because here's how I think of it, right?
Okay.
Somebody's looking at another person. The sensation of noticing that gaze causes that person, like, what does the person do, right? How do they react? That's right.
They turn. They turn.
They
turn.
turn.
They turn.
So what's the word for a force around a pivot point?
Like
a force applied
fulcrum?
around a pivot point. The word for that is torque.
Why are we? So you're. It's the.
I think
Okay, Julian,
the
come
sentence
on.
should be, her head was pulled around by the torque of his regard.
I mean, honestly, it's not bad. It's still literary.
Yeah,
kind of nice.
I think torque has
It's got a Q in it. That's
a
fun.
terrible feel to it compared to weight. Weight is so much more
Softer.
elegant, whereas like the
there's-
torque of his regard sounds terrible. But yeah, the product of a force applied perpendicular around a pivot point is torque, or the moment, which could be more literary, right? Like
That's
the
nice.
moment of his regard. So I'll kind of save it at the end there if we want to say, we had a moment when I turned and caught his gaze.
When I
torqued.
my neck.
That's a little too close to twerked.
Yeah, true.
Your twerking caught my attention.
But twerking is also a somewhat torquey motion.
It is around an axis. And, frankly, we talked about you pick up movement better in your peripheral vision. It would make sense, why you'd be more attuned to twerking as well.
Either one.
So, yes, sorry to disappoint Sabrina, but some things are entirely just literary inventions. It's cool, though, to learn we are so attuned to our environment. We do have these adaptations that make us aware of when things are staring at us, or at least, we assume they are, and then we look and sometimes they are and sometimes they're not.
Sometimes
it's funny, actually doing this research, you know what I stumbled across?
I don't know.
It would be a video from about 10 years ago made by a one Trace Dominguez.
Well.
I don't know if you remember, but you covered
I do not.
almost this exact topic. And you had some interesting insights. You talked about the peripheral vision and picking up, like wiggling fingers on the side of it. You also, I thought was interesting, talked about how good humans are at identifying faces, how we search for them all the time, and sometimes see them in things that aren't there.
Like pareidolia.
Exactly. And it's funny, I couldn't find like anybody else talking about it, but I think it's a valid thing to bring up of, we are always looking for faces in particular. And if we don't have a good view of something, we may interpret it as a face and then be like, what's looking at me?
Yeah. What face is looking at me right now? Mm-hmm. Even if it maybe not looking at me exactly. Huh. Interesting. Well, whoever that guy is seems like he knew what he was talking about.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool.
Well, thanks for your question, Sabrina. Let's take a quick break and come back with another question. Julian, give me your best dinosaur roar.
Oh, God, an asteroid! It's horrible!
Wow, that was not where I expected that to go. We're popping in before the show to tell you about I Know Dino. It's a dinosaur podcast.
We think of those dinosaurs being this thing that's been dead for tens of millions of years. Even so, studying dinosaurs can still teach us stuff that is relevant to the world today.
Yeah, like climate models to help us understand global warming.
Migration patterns of dinosaur lineages, they tell us about about Earth's changing continents.
We can also study dinosaur diets, what plants lived then, and maybe what animals and how they interact.
And, this is super cool, many dinosaur injuries, paleopathologies, they're the first known occurrences of diseases.
And they talk about all this kind of stuff on I Know Dino. It comes out every week with new dinosaur stories that you're not going to hear anywhere else. Like, I hadn't heard of a lot of these, which is pretty cool.
You can find I Know Dino on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever podcasts are. And if you found us, you can probably find them. Go check them out. Hello and welcome back to That's Absurd. Please elaborate. We've had one question asking us if regard has weight. And it doesn't. Literally, but literarily it does. Now, we have Trace's question. Trace, what is it and who's it from?
So this question was asked by Grace.
Hi, guys. Medium/long time listener, first time caller. My name is Grace. I live in the small, dinky town Victoria in the much less small and dinky state of Texas. And I was wondering, can you drink fog? So I love to listen to the podcast whenever I'm working or working out. And this particular question came to mind as I was listening to the podcast, driving on my way to the gym. And it was an extremely foggy morning. I could hardly see in front of my car. And I was thinking of the phrase, fog was so thick, it was like soup. And I was wondering, well, if a fog was thick enough, could you drink it? Would it be safe? I mean, where I live, sometimes the smog gets bagged. And I know you guys over in California have that problem too. And so I assume sometimes it wouldn't be very healthy to drink. But could you do it? Would you survive? Is there enough water content, or is there a bunch of other stuff in the air that would make it harder? So as I was pondering these things, listening to the podcast, I was like, wait a minute, I could ask this. And so I did.
Yes! Yes! That's the goal!
That's what we want!
We all have these weird thoughts all the time. Please send them in.
Oh, excellent.
You've got to be, there's a special line you have to walk where your brain is just kind of wandering enough that it comes up with this, but then you're kind of cognizant enough to be like, wait,
I know somebody.
I need to send an email.
Yeah, all I got to do is send an email or call 302-TAPESHO, 302 Tape Show. Leave us a voicemail. Yeah. You can ask us.
And then we'll
try and answer your question.
Have a little chit chat.
We're like your kind of dumb smart friends. So let us look into it for you. That's what we're here for. So
we're that buddy you have when you're in the bar later and you're like, I don't know, I have a friend who says, and that's like about as reliable as we are.
I would say that seems about right. So the question again, can you drink fog? This is an excellent question. I think it is one of those where when you think about fog, what is it? Why is it there? How did it get there?
We always go so philosophical at the start of all the questions. What is fog?
What is fog?
Father.
He asked. I should have written a poem now that I knew. This is a very literary episode. I also want to call out right at the beginning here. She's riding her way to the gym and she's just like, what is fog? And then Sabrina's the weight of his regard. And I'm just like, wow, we got a lot of really literary smart listeners, and I love them. Okay, so firstly, what is fog? Straight up, it's a cloud. Fog is a cloud on the ground. That's really what it is. It's
a low-flying cloud.
Yeah, it's condensed water vapor hanging in the air, and that means it has high humidity, and it's literally tiny little water particles, and they're clinging to bits of dust and, things in the air. So the thing about Grace's question is that she nailed so many little pieces of it. It really helped me kind of go in a direction that she wanted. There are different types of fog. This I did not know. I was really excited to learn. There are 4 different types of fog. Did you know that, Julian?
Really?
Yeah. When I say fog, I don't know, you grew up in the Bay Area, right? So fog and you know all about the fog.
There's that, yes. But you know where my mind actually goes first?
Where?
As a nerd.
Where?
Silent Hill.
I don't know what that is.
Silent Hill, the video game,
is
a classic because it was running on old PlayStation 1 era hardware, right?
Okay.
And the developers had this issue where as you're running around this town of Silent Hill, the map that they had made was basically too much for the system to load in. So the developers got around this by obscuring things in the distance so they could lower the draw distance and ease the hardware strain by having the town be all foggy all the time.
Oh,
so
that's nice.
Unintentionally, this solution to this hardware issue unintentionally created this incredible atmosphere, no pun intended, of like dread and confinement and claustrophobia because of this fog that was all around you. So even though you're right, I'm from the Bay, my brain should go first thing to Carl the Fog, our beloved regular fog cloud. Mine goes right to Silent Hill.
Huh. You're a nerd and from the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
A lot of people are both, as it turns out.
I was going to say, not a lot of those there.
Quite a nerdy place.
Yeah, and if you didn't know, the Bay Area of San Francisco has a lot of fog, and it has a name, Carl the Fog. And Carl the Fog shows up, and it's very thick and soupy, and it's sometimes hard enough that thick enough that you can't even see the Golden Gate Bridge if you're standing on the shore and it's not that far away. You can't see when you're driving or walking down the street. And it's just very thick. There's also in California often the marine layer. That's a sea fog. It clings to bits of salt in the air. And of course we get smog, which is what Grace mentioned. None of these, by the way, are the 4 different types of fog. I kind of went on a little walk around here, but the different types of fog are radiation fog, advection fog, freezing fog, and valley fog. So radiation fog is surfaces that are heated during the day radiate their heat back into the air, causing condensation. It's also known as ground fog. When you think of like cemetery fog that like hangs near the ground, that's the air near the ground being warmed by the sun's heat, and like it's coming back out of the ground again and causing this condensation like lingering around the ground. So that one is really cool.
It's like evaporating the moisture in the soil sort of thing and bringing it up and
and then
giving you a cloud layer.
Right. And then there's advection fog, which is warm air passing over a cooler surface. So it's the opposite, right? We've got a warmer surface with cooler air. Then we've got a warmer air that's moist over a cooler surface. So think the marine layer in California or other kind of ocean and water bodies where a warm air might sweep over a cold body of water, like causing a fog. And then there's freezing and valley fogs. And both of these have to do really with mountains, because I don't know if you know this, but mountains are huge. They're unimaginably big.
I had read that in a book, I think, once.
Yeah, rocks are hard, water is wet, the sun is hot, mountains are big. That's everything you need to know.
I'm so glad that we could provide such an educational...
Hey, maybe we should move our podcast to the educational section, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
were we not already?
I don't know.
We're just science?
I actually don't know.
We're not educational, but continue, please.
So freezing fog is when water vapor freezes on solid surfaces. And so you have a moist air, but it gets very cold, and it might freeze on things like branches, the pine needles, or leaves. Even spider webs can get like that frosty little kind of layer on them. That is freezing fog. It's a high humidity in the air, and then it gets very cold. Then valley fog is dense, cold air trapped in a valley between two mountains, and the vapor condenses, and that's usually very thick fog. So those are the 4 different types: hot ground, cold air, hot air, cold ground, freezing, and then it can't escape between 2 large things like mountains. But again, fog's basically a cloud. And so these are clouds that are forming in various ways, and they can form anywhere where air and water are kind of mixed together. You have water that gets into the air at scale, you end up with a lot of fog. For example, you have a mountainside, you maybe have wet air rushing toward the mountainside and it has to go up and over. That might mean that it drops a lot of water, which could mean rain. It could also mean that it creates fog. So there's all these different scenarios where it can happen. But as it's water, Grace is totally right. Like, we should be able to just drink it, right?
Okay.
It's just water.
Here's my thinking.
Yeah.
Is the problem might inherently be with the way our body operates.
Oh, wow. You're
know what I mean?
Jumping all the way up there? I love it.
Yeah.
Tell me what you're thinking.
Okay, here's what I'm thinking, right? Okay, sure. It's water suspended in air.
Right.
Yes, in theory, right, if you could get that out of the air or wait for it to condense and rain, right, you can just go ahead and drink it. It's the same
drinking
molecules.
rainwater, right?
The problem is when we're breathing and when we're drinking, use two separate pathways in our body.
Wow.
They start in the same place, but they end up in different places.
I mean, you're totally right there. I didn't even think to go into that. But yeah, I mean, the lungs don't absorb water, right? They just don't. And so...
I mean, if you do have water in your lungs, that's called pneumonia, and that's bad.
Yeah, don't do that if you can help it.
Or drowning.
Yeah, or drowning.
So you don't want that.
But yeah, that's a really great point.
The issue would be, right, because when you breathe, your windpipe is in front, right, of your esophagus, your larynx.
Yeah.
So like that channel's open and the air just goes freely. But then when you eat or drink, your epiglottis closes and shuts off that windpipe so you don't get food or liquid in your lungs, and then that goes into your digestive tract.
That's a really bad design. If there was somebody who had designed this, I would be like, this is a C- in this project.
Not ideal.
Not great.
There probably would have been a way so the breathing tube and the eating tube don't begin in the same place.
Yeah, you'd think they would.
And rely on a little flap to separate them.
A little wet floppy thing.
It's literally like an epiglottis. What a gross name, right? To keep the two from going in the wrong place. That's my thinking.
So you're probably right. I didn't even think about it in terms of our consumption of it. I just assumed, that because Grace said drink, she meant like drinking it through into her stomach and processing it like that. I didn't even think about the lungs processing it, but that's a really great. I wish I would have looked into it a little more. I did, however.
That's what I'm here for, bud.
Thank
I got you.
Yeah, thanks for taking this in a whole new direction. There are plants that do exactly what you're talking about, though.
With fog specifically?
With fog specifically.
Okay, go on.
So in your textbook, your biology textbook, your roots of your plant absorb water, right? They get it out of the soil, it goes up into the tree, the xylems, the phloems, and so on, and then they go all the way to the leaves where it is released. And that process is what moves things around the plant, and it's, they can make new plant cells and continue to live. However, since the 1950s, we have discovered that approximately 40 different species of plant absorb water into their leaves, not just through their roots. In Costa Rica, there's a place in western Costa Rica called the cloud forests where it rains a lot. Several months of the year it's raining. But the drier seasons, how do the trees live, right? The soil gets dry. The roots have very little water to suck up. They do, however, get about 13 hours of fog every day because it's very mountainous, it's near the coast. And so scientists at UC Berkeley created these electronic leaves that they put on the trees in Costa Rica to determine how much water these leaves were being exposed to and track that fog cover. And it turns out they were storing 20% more water for growth and survival using foliar uptake than their downhill tree counterparts were. They were actually drinking fog.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool. There is another tree that does this a little closer to home for us. Any guesses?
I don't know trees.
Oh, okay. California redwood.
Oh, yeah, totally. That one. Yeah,
regular old redwood.
Yeah.
They're beautiful. They're humongous, very popular in NorCal and Pacific Northwest, and they absorb the fog.
That makes a lot of sense to me because we talked about the Bay Area, or I went to school in Santa Cruz for a little bit, and it's foggy all the time when that marine layer comes in, and that's also where a ton of redwoods are. Yeah. That would make total sense to me.
Yeah, they evolved in an area where it's often foggy because the Pacific coast the water is very cold, but the land is quite warm. If you're not from here, if you're in the Bay Area, San Francisco aside, like you're in Northern California, it could be inland away from the ocean 110 degrees, and you go to the beach and it's 60 degrees. In non-freedom degrees, that would be like going from 45 all the way down into the 20s, in just a short drive, like a drive of 45 minutes to an hour. It's just really incredible temperature changes. And that's because the Pacific coast has this coastal current that pushes cold water right up California's coasts.
Yep.
And that's really important for our ecosystem, but it creates this perfect place to make that advection fog where warm air passes over a cooler surface, which is just awesome. And there are plants that have evolved to feast on this. And so when I first got this question from Grace, I immediately thought of Star Wars.
Oh,
because
we
there's
are
those
so playing to type in this episode. I went to video
really
games,
are.
you went to Star Wars. Wow.
Because Luke Skywalker, I think is his name, he lived on a desert farm, and he had basically fancy, super futuristic dehumidifiers, and they were a moisture farming.
Right.
They were essentially absorbing water out of the air. How much water do you think is in a cubic meter of fog?
Of fog specifically.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're a cubic meter, and you want me in what, like liters, centiliters, like milliliters?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, if you think that there's that much, I would go less.
It would probably
but
be less. Yeah. I would
Yeah.
be shocked if it was even like 1 milliliter.
Yeah, you are correct.
It's a milliliter?
It's 50 to 500 milligrams
Oh, okay.
of liquid water. Very, very small amount
And then
per
if I
cubic
remember
meter.
everything, like 1 kilogram of water is a liter. Is that right?
The milliliter is a mass of a gram. So yeah, 1 milliliter of water is 1 cubic centimeter and has a mass of 1 gram. So we're talking 50 to 500 milligrams. So half. So it's small. It's a very small amount of water. In freedom units, that's 0.18 ounces.
It's
0.1 teaspoons.
Wait, is that ounces of weight or ounces of volume?
Ah, love that American system, don't y'all?
Because the stupid system.
All the Europeans are like, wow, 50 to 500 milligrams. That's a very specific amount that I totally understand. And Americans, we say, hey, that's 0.1 teaspoons. How much is that? I don't know. 0.08 ounces. I don't know.
This is another sidebar, but I was going through airport security once and they pulled out my toothpaste and they were like, this is too many ounces. And I was like, well, because it said on the bottle like 4 ounces weight, WT.
Yeah, WT.
And I was like, well, is it too many ounces by volume or too many by weight? And they were like, what? And I was like, yeah, there's 2 kinds of ounces. And they're different.
We're that stupid. Anyway, so yeah, that is not a lot of liquid. Even in a dense fog, it's not that much actual liquid. So when Grace says, if you could condense it and put it into a cup, could you drink it? The answer is, of course, it's water. However, I'm sure Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru found out before they turned into smoldering skeletons, it was a difficult thing to do in terms of just sheer volume. However, this fancy futuristic Star Wars technology that existed a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away was also practiced in Central and South America by the Incan Empire and other indigenous people who live there. So it's still practiced today in Bolivia, Colombia, Peru, Chile, and southern Mexico.
So they contacted aliens.
They contacted the aliens.
That's the only explanation.
They got those whatever white tower things, and they just put them up all over the place. So it's very dry. There's not a lot of rain. The Atacama Desert in Chile is one of the driest places in the world. Peru is famously dry. Bolivia, famously dry. So they have these large sheets of mesh that they hang and the wind blows through them and water literally physically gets caught, but the air continues through. Cool. So then the water drips down the mesh and is collected. And even at such low amounts of water, 50 to 500 milligrams, they can collect 200 to 400 liters of water a day.
Whoa! So
right.
High throughput. A lot of air blowing through.
Okay, so for the Americans here, that's 422 quarts or 845 pints. Do you know exactly how much that is? Do you really get the concept there? Yeah, man, this imperial system sure is good. Woo, we really understand things good. It's 105 gallons per day. It's a lot of gallons.
Although I will point out
liters.
that pints, quarts, and gallons are all just related to just multiples of each other. That's
I know,
too bad.
but I specifically picked other ones, being like, hey, well, can you don't know? Oh, you don't know what that is? I can only use one very large unit.
If you would have said acres feet, then I would have been impressed.
Yeah,
because that's another unit of. of water volume.
Yuck. So you can get a lot of water out of fog. That's the point, right? You can get a lot of it. Trees do it. We humans have done it for like hundreds and hundreds of years. There's like stuff dating back to, basically before there was an Americas, because it's the Incan Empire, and it's incredible. However, because of the Industrial Revolution, also again hinted at, thank you, Grace, this was such a well-asked question, fog can be harmful to drink. And usually we call that something else. We call it smog. Just as a reminder, fog has to coalesce on something. The water vapor isn't just like water vapor. It's become tiny little droplets that hang in the air on something. So usually a speck, pollen, dust, maybe a skin cell. I don't know, probably not one, a little chunk of them. But pollution is one of a very easy way to get a lot of fog. In 1930, the Meuse Valley in Belgium had a very thick fog settle into the valley, and it killed 63 people.
Oh, no.
Yeah. They all got, they predominantly attribute it to shortness of breath, and it was related to the industrial chemical plants that existed in the valley and would put out all this pollution into the air. And what ended up happening is this valley fog got trapped. It started picking up all of the stuff in the air, and fluorine gas from the industrial chemical plant killed a bunch of people.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh.
Fluorine gas, not great. Famously not great. In 1948, the Donora smog, maybe Donora, I don't know. It's in Pennsylvania, killed 21 people. Similar thing happened. It was a mill town in a river valley. The fog was trapped there for a week, clinging to zinc particles that were put out by a mill in the area, and it got so thick that people couldn't see. Thousands of them got sick. The story says that there were 11 doctors, no hospitals or EMTs in the valley. This was in the 1940s, and thousands of people were trying to get a hold of the doctors because they couldn't breathe. And then, just stuff like that just kind of kept happening. The fog was like killing people. I wonder if that's where they came up with the movie The Fog. From something like this. Anyway, after that disaster, the citizens of Donora formed the Society for Better Living, which is considered, if not the first, one of the first environmental groups. And they were pushing back against the capitalists running the mill and saying, we need to take care of our environment so that the people that live here don't die. And it doesn't have to be valley fog either. Both of those are like river valleys. The Great Smog of London happened in 1952. It was depicted in the first season of The Crown, episode 4. And they fictionalized it, but it was a pretty accurate representation. It's also showed up in Doctor Who because, London. But it killed between 4,000 and 12,000 people just because warm air trapped cold air near the ground. And in this industrial city where they were burning lots of very cheap coal, it caused the fog to kill people and give them shortness of breath, mostly old people and young people. But man,
that's
awful.
Terrible.
So you can use this mesh to harvest fog, even in some place like London. But if you were doing it during something like this, you'd have water, but you wouldn't probably want to drink it.
It might be more useful as a way of getting that particulate matter out of the air. Although I don't know how much of a dent you're really going to make.
Right. You probably wouldn't make much. But
everybody, we need you to put your garters out hanging on the clotheslines.
Midge!
It's the only way to save the cities. Put up your knickers.
Oi, Aronson, put out your underwears.
Aaron,
your pants.
Arrange your free sticks.
Put your pants on your 3 sticks. Filter the air for Britain. Anyway.
Is that how they solved that Doctor Who episode?
I think so.
Probably.
Yeah, they probably did.
Yeah.
They probably did.
It probably wasn't alien in nature.
Oh, no, definitely not.
I haven't seen any Doctor Who, but I'm assuming.
It was definitely, nylon related.
Yeah.
So in modern day, we can fix that problem a little bit when it comes to drinking water. So we have problems drinking water in urban areas and in rural areas. In a rural area, so if you're in the mountains of Peru away from a city, you just put up a mesh and you're going to get water if it's designed in the right way and it has the small enough little holes and the water can get collected. But in 2023, some engineers came up with a nano-engineered steel mesh that was coated in a polymer of titanium dioxide nanoparticles, which, when hit by UV radiation just from the sun, it becomes charged. and it drives a catalytic decay reaction. Basically, it breaks up molecules just naturally. And you can use that with fog, because again, it's just a mesh, and it will remove organic pollutants from the water by breaking them down as it goes over the mesh. And it's just, again, powered by the sun. It's just incredible.
That's cool as hell.
Right? And so that would be great for some place where, let's say you're in a high population area in an urban area and you have trouble with groundwater or it's not clean, you could harvest it right from the air, especially if the air is moist or foggy. And that's one solution. And they said it could clean a large percentage of the organic pollution, which would be like hydrocarbons, not organic like food particles, but more of a chemistry way. So any org chem hydrocarbons. Yeah. It could clean a large percentage. The percentages ranged depending on what they were talking about, but it was like between a third and even up to like in the 90s. So it depended on the thing. Still in development, but very cool. There might be a way that we get to that Star Wars universe where you just plop a thing down and you're harvesting water and cleaning it all at the same time. So you can absolutely drink fog, although you'd probably, like any body of water, it would be safer to drink it away from an urban area covered in pollution than in an urban area. But if you condensed it on a leaf or a mesh or, whatever, you can drink it.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
My brain is so rotten that my first thought on how to do it wasn't mesh harvesting. It was like duct taping a person to a wing of an airplane with their mouth open and then ramming them at high speed through foggy air. Because I'm
just
dumb,
volume, just a huge amount of volume.
Just gotta cram it in there. And that's when this is way back, but that's when my brain, then I said the smart sounding thing of, but our epiglottis, right? But I want you to know the path there was filled with idiocy.
Honestly, I appreciate it. You want to know what the first thing I searched for on this question?
Yes.
Usually the first thing I search for is the question, and it came, can you drink fog? And
might as well.
There was a Reddit thread that said, is it possible to drink fog juice and spit out fog?
What?
Do you know what fog juice is?
Is it going to be gross?
It's not gross. It's not gross.
Okay,
it's the
what
stuff
is
they
it?
put in fog machines.
Oh!
And
Isn't
so
that like an oil?
that sent me down a rabbit hole. Let's talk about fog machines. Fog machines are one of the wonders of the modern world.
Oh,
do you know how they
Every
work?
time you go to a concert, you're like, I'm not here for 10-dimensional vibes.
No.
I want to see the fog.
10-dimensional vibes uses so many fog machines.
So many fog.
So do you know how a fog machine works? I didn't know, so I looked it up.
I want to say it's some sort of oil.
Yeah, got it. Cool.
And then, I don't know, it vaporizes it with heat? That's the best I got.
You got it. That's right. There's a reservoir where you put the fog juice. There's a little pump to move the fog juice through a heat exchanger that vaporizes it. And then it hits the colder air in the room that you're shooting it into, and it becomes fog. The fog juice is just regular, like distilled water, plus either glycol or glycerin.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
It depends what kind of fog you want, which is cool.
So it'd be, don't drink it,
No,
obviously, but it's kind of sweet then, right?
Yeah.
If you were to drink it, which do not drink it, but if you were, but don't.
Don't do it.
But if you did, it would be sweet.
Drink the glycerin one. It would be sweet. So glycerin is a colorless liquid. It's odorless, but it is used in pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, food industries because it has good moisturizing properties. It's often used in skin moisturizers and things, but it can also be a sweetener, and it grabs moisture well. So it can be a thickener. It will make your fog machine produce kind of smoky, wispy fog, more like Halloween, ground fog. You want ground fog? You want glycerin. That's my mnemonic. Ground fog, glycerin. Okay. Then there's propylene glycol. Maybe you've heard of this before because it's also known as antifreeze. This is a colorless, odorless, and tasteless liquid. It's more viscous, and it's used in pharmaceuticals and food as a carrier for medications because it's water soluble, so they can grab onto it, and it's good also for moisturizing properties, and that gets you a more soupy fog. So you can make, I don't recommend it, but you can make your own fog juice to put in your fog machine, and you just get some propylene glycol and some distilled water, and at different ratios, 70% distilled water, 30% propylene glycol, you're going to get a really soupy thick fog, whereas if you do less, you dilute it a little bit, it'll be a thinner fog. So you can buy these things at pharmacy chains, the stores that sell household chemicals online. They're not super dangerous, you just shouldn't be drinking them. They are both non-toxic, but they both come with safety paperwork. If you drink it, call poison control, because if you drink a certain amount of it, it could be harmful to you. But if you just accidentally had some, because you're inhaling them, you're like
calling it fog juice is not gonna deter people, though. I love the term fog juice, but we really shouldn't use it.
Yeah.
Fog juice.
So for spookiness, fog juice. You can just make your own fog, and it's generally considered safe to inhale, and whatever. The FDA said this is pretty safe. So just to kind of wrap it up here, you can harvest and drink fog, but if you do it, don't do it with fog juice. Don't drink the fog juice. That's the important thing.
I love the extra steps you would have to go through to, let's say you make this carbon mesh thing or nanoscale fine webbing. And then you're like, okay, and now my fog machine, instead of going to a coastal area with fog.
Yeah.
And then you pour your glycol water mixture in, harvest it, and you're like, at last I can drink the fog.
It's a perpetual water making machine. And it looks cool at parties. Grace, you can drink fog, but treat it the same as you would any other bit of water, and think of the source.
Yeah, I don't know how. She says it was a tiny town, so maybe there's not a lot of pollutants. I don't know. Maybe.
Thanks for writing in.
But yeah, but you can't just slurp it straight out of the air.
No. If you were to condense it to a level where it becomes drinkable like water, now it's just water.
That's just water then. That's what that's called.
If you took a cubic meter, you could beam it in with Star Trek into a tank, then that tank could get compressed. What would end up happening is you'd be compressing the air so much that the water would come off of the particles, and you just end up with water and air in a box. There wouldn't be very much of it. Again, 50 to 500 milligrams per cubic meter on average, or 0.1 teaspoons. Don't forget, all you American listeners who really understand what the hell that means.
We're very, very spiteful about SI.
Specifically this episode. Yeah. That's a fog joke, particular. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. On that joke, I don't think we're going to do any better.
Nope. We go until we have a joke we like, and then we end the show. Okay.
Anyway, thank you both for writing in your questions. We really, really could not do this show without it. We also couldn't do this show without our producer and editor, the wonderful and wonderfully talented Kyle Sisk. Thank you for listening to this episode. The show was written, created, and produced by me, Trace Dominguez.
And me, Julian Huguet.
And again, special thanks to those listeners who submitted questions featured in the episode. That would be Grace and Sabrina. If you too want to submit a question, that is what this show is all about. You can email them to us at hello@that'sabsurdshow.com. You can visit our website, and there's a form there on that'sabsurdshow.com/ask. You can now call us at 302-TAPE-SHOW, TAPESHO, 302 Tape Show, and you can tell us what your question is, and maybe we'll use it here on the show. Make sure you leave us a review. Wherever you're listening right now, please shoot us a review, leave us some hearts or some stars or some thumbs ups or whatever it is that the app that you're using can do. You can put words in there as well and tell them what you actually think of the show. We would really appreciate it. All of those reviews tell new listeners, hey, this show is worth my time. And a special, special thanks to those listening on Nebula. It's ad-free. You can visit go.nebula.tv/that'sabsurdshow to join and support the show and other independent creators.
Well, Trace, what do we always say?
If the vibes are off, get 10-dimensional.
If someone LA offers you a cup of fog water, politely decline. If you're in a cafe in LA and you feel the torque of someone's gaze.
If you felt the torque of someone's gaze, that's just Jack White starting another band.
Is somebody staring at me? No, that's Jack White. That's the sensation you get.